What is up, Fantasyland? We are back in the district. I don't know if you guys ever been to those big aquariums where you kind of walk through. There's a tunnel, and you see fish or shark through the tanks, and you observe the power that a shark has when it swims in the water. And last Friday, I had the pleasure of co-hosting a draft, a shark infested draft. And tonight we have 3 of these sharks. I mean, I say it the last 3 weeks, guys, this is Shark Week, but these guys are really whales when it comes to fantasy. And tonight we're going to dive deep into the latest high stakes 500K FFPC FPC draft. Let's do it.
Go district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Guys, welcome back to part 3 of Shark Week. I mean, come on. Has anyone had bigger names on the show in the last 7 days? I could go 7 weeks, 7 months. I don't know. You tell me. Back-to-back FFPC FPC Champ, Mr. Abib. That guy was as slick and cool as a cucumber. I don't know if that's a thing, Dan, but I just made it up if it wasn't.
It is now.
But guys, and then we had Dwayne come on. And like I said, Theo's been like the shark hunter with these guests that he's been bringing on. He might get me divorced with the amount of guests that he's got lined up for this show. So if you haven't done it yet, smash the subscribe, smash the like button. You guys have been awesome, by the way, with that. So we appreciate you guys tuning in live. We appreciate the likes, the questions. Drop any cues you have in the chat, and we'll throw that on the screen and answer it when we can on the show. Guys, how are you today? Another big show tonight, Dan. How pumped are you?
Oh, definitely, man. This is going to be a fun one. We get to talk about a actual draft, a fun draft that a lot of heavy hitters were in, and so we're gonna deconstruct it and see if we can make a few of them mad.
Yeah, Theo, man, just again tonight, another heavy hitter. How excited are you, and how fun was that draft on Friday?
Oh, that draft was an absolute blast. There was no holes in the draft. There were some very, very interesting team builds, some incredibly sharp drafters, and we have a very sharp drafter coming on the show tonight. So I'm very excited. Shark Week has been incredible, and part 3 is just going to rock tonight.
Yeah, man. I mean, tonight, what's the saying? Wow. I butchered it. Whatever that saying was, I officially butchered it. Guys, let's just bring in our guest, man. Let's bring in the shark, the third shark for Shark Week. How's it going, Billy? Welcome to the GOAT District, brother.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah, us too, man.
Billy might have the best background so far in the game.
Yes.
I'm going to put it out there. I'll put you and Davis Maddock, but even him, when I found out it was a green screen, I was kind of disappointed. It was like finding out Santa Claus didn't exist, you know? So
it doesn't count then.
Doesn't count, right? So right now you got the title, man. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So go, guys, if you aren't following Billy, he's at FF Muzio on the Twitter machine. And I mean, if you're not, you're missing out, guys. He's co-host of FF Analyst. and YouTube manager for Fantasy Data. Guys, we actually have their channel posted on our YouTube channel. That's how much we like their material. It's the only other channel we have posted on there. So go on there. So you can subscribe through our show. And again, follow Billy on the Twitter machine. Billy, why don't you tell us a bit about what you do over at Fantasy Data and anything else you got going on that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it started off as them having me come on as kind of the high stakes analyst to write about FFPC and to discuss drafts and discuss strategies for FFPC and best ball and a lot of other platforms as well. It got to the point where we just started doing more shows, and as we get into the season, we're going to be recording twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I've kind of put writing on the back burner as we're in, for me, the middle of draft season already. I start drafting in March, May, all the way through. It doesn't matter. It's like as soon as Super Bowl ends, I start drafting and I start taking a look at ADPs and kind of seeing where players fall. And so I'm not writing as much or if any at all right now. I'm primarily just doing YouTube and podcasting for Fantasy Data.
Nice. Yeah, I really like what you guys are doing over there. Theo, new mic. How's that working out, brother?
Not so well, JD. We had some technical difficulties.
You look so serious. You look so serious. I had to kind of break the ice there. No, man. Theo's got a new mic. So we apologize for being a little late tonight, but no issues, man. It's all good. We appreciate your patience. But Billy, just tell us a bit more about you're a big player when it comes to fantasy. Give us a little history, like how you got into fantasy football even, and then kind of where you're at in your portfolio, as some like to call it these days.
Yeah, I started fantasy football about 2003, 2004, back when like Yahoo was the main platform. And just kind of dominated, high school leagues and then into college and offline drafts. And then from there, I just fell in love with it. I really wasn't serious about it until probably about 4 years ago. I was always in like maybe a handful of leagues, a dozen or so. And at that point, I decided to really play seriously. I started playing on the FFPC and the first year was primarily Dynasty. And then I did some FBGs and a couple main events and did all right. Didn't do great. It was about, maybe a 55% win rate, which is not fantastic. And then from there, it got better year after year as I learned the format more. And that's what I always preach is learning the format you're playing on and learning the rules and making sure you fully understand them. And, last year I did quite a few more on FFPC. And if I recall doing the math right, I think it was like a 62.8% win rate last year, which was pretty successful, which set me up for this year to kind of mass entry on best ball and to do, the high society league this year as well on FFPC, and then also to hammer out a few FBGs and a few main events.
That's why he's on Shark Week, guys. That's the resume right there. You know what I mean? And I know this time of year, you're either thinking about your bigger buy-in drafts and starting to schedule them, or you've already dived in, or you've got one scheduled. So again, if you haven't checked out the last two show, guys, go check them out and make sure you tune in tonight and watch the rest of this one. Dan, I'm going to go to you. Give the background on this specific draft, the leagues, the players, anything you want to add. You and Theo were actual players. I was kind of asked to be a co-host with Todd, which was awesome because, like I said, I got to observe you Sharks in the tank. But talk to us about this specific draft, Dan.
Yeah, so this draft has been going for 3 years now. And it actually all started out as, believe it or not, I know nobody can believe that anything would start from a Twitter argument and anything good would come from it, but that's exactly what it was. We got, several of the people who were in the league kind of got into a big discussion about, where was the appropriate place to draft. I believe it was Josh Jacobs. And so we were just, going back and forth. And, there was, maybe a little bit of whip it out and measure it stuff going on. And, it just kind of kept going. And finally somebody said, you know what, let's just have a league. Let's everybody in this thread get in. We're going to see who's the best. And so that's basically where it started from. And so pretty quickly it kind of became a league that a bunch of the real heavy hitters wanted to jump into, just because it was a chance to, kind of prove themselves against each other in a little bit more of a public forum. So that's where it started from. We all quickly started laughing and joking about how the fact that there was no way that the overall winner of the football guys championship was ever coming from this league.
Out of it. Yeah.
So you're basically,
well, you said that to me the first, I think like whenever the first one was, like you said that to me, and at first it didn't click, and then I realized, oh, okay, like, yeah, okay. So I probably don't want to be in that one.
Definitely not. Yeah, this is like the most negative UV league that you could ever be.
It's an ego thing, man.
That's like, where all the value is.
It's like this, Dan. It's like this.
Say hello to my little friend.
A little bit of that going on, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but like for me, like sometimes like losing home leagues it hurts more than losing like a main event league. Oh, yeah. It's like it's the pride. It hurts more than the massive buy-in. It's like I would sometimes rather win the home league just so I can say they didn't beat me and than win it all.
Right. And when you become known for winning big leagues, then all of a sudden everybody in the home league wants to rub it in even that much more.
Exactly.
You think you're such hot stuff. Well, you finished fourth, or whatever.
Well, it's like the fighters that go training, right? And they're sparring with some guy that just decides, I'm gonna take out GSP today and just take a swing at him while he's.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, we formed up the first one, and we all had a good time with it. And then so we all came back around for the second try last year, and this year there was just no question that it was going to continue as a third league. We've had to replace a couple members along the way, so we welcome in Billy and Theo both this year as first-time participants, but they're definitely very much worthy of being in the league, and they fit in, they slide in just really nicely. As far as personalities and talent and everything else. So we had a great time drafting the league. If you haven't heard the podcast of when the league draft was going on, Todd Burrows.
I just retweeted it. I just retweeted it. You can get the YouTube. If you go to @GoatDistrict, the YouTube link is on there.
There you go. So do that. It's a great podcast. It's I think there's a lot of nice little tidbits that got dropped along the way. Along with you can find out what it is to be scoundreled, I guess. So
that's hilarious.
I'm just going to tease with that. I'm not going to say any more. But anyway, so it's a fun league, and it's one of those leagues that I know I think. Theo, you have a tweet from John Daigle that was, said, hey, this is the league I really look forward to watching every year, because I get to see, this is the league that kind of really almost to me determines ADP and where it's wrong, and what high stakes players are really thinking about it. So I don't want to have too much ego. I mean, none of us have crystal balls, but we all certainly aren't afraid to get out there and reach for the players that we think we need to reach for, rather than let them fall to somebody else's team. So people are definitely shooting their shots in this league.
Yeah, it's a great draft. I mean, it was an honor to be in it with you guys, and it's just there's so much success across the board. Everybody knows Abib Agbatoba, how successful he's been the last 2 years. We have Dave Hubbard, a former main event champion. Austin Martin, one of the better players in FFPC. I mean, you go down the list. Todd's a fantastic player. Dan's a fantastic player. Billy's a fantastic player, and it's just it's player after player that's able to not only extract value from the pick they're on, but I think what separates this draft from others is people have kind of an end game in mind and a team building skills where. A lot of times you get into drafts and maybe a guy makes a great pick here and there, but these guys are just very sharp in the way that they build teams, and it makes it very difficult to put together a good team yourself and to really steal any value in a draft like this.
It's like combining the Daytona 500 with a demolition derby. So
It's a good analogy.
it's, because there is more than just swapping paint. I mean, if you see a way that you can, advance your own cause and screw up somebody else, that's definitely a pick that's going to get made in this draft. I don't see a lot of people who are just going out there and, wrecking a team, and not paying attention to what they're doing on their own team. So if somebody wrecks your team, it was because that pick served their purpose as well. But, everybody's aware of kind of what other people are doing, and they get out there and try to mess with it where they can without hurting themselves.
Yeah, if they can build a good roster and destroy your team and your ego at the same time, they're going to do it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Theo was saying, it's one of these where roster construction is the most evident thing to me, and that's what I noticed the most that night is even if someone makes a pick that you question, you look at their roster and what they do the rest of the way, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense now, or it fits, and that's, we always talk about it on the show, is the story you're telling when you're building one of these rosters, whether it's best ball or redraft. And I think this was perfect example. We'll put the draft on the screen. We've got some questions coming in from the chat here. And then so we'll get some questions going about the specifics. We've got a question from Johnny Guerrero, which we'll get to. But as our guest, Billy, why don't you give us, like, going into a draft like this, where and our guests can have similar situations where they're signing up for this tournament. Let's face it, they're not easy leagues that you're joining when you're comparing it to like your home leagues and the Yahoos and stuff, right? So what is your approach when you're coming into this draft? Is it any different than another draft, or is it similar to your usual kind of approach when you're coming into these leagues?
And you're talking in FBG in general, or in specifically the hardware draft?
So specifically the hardware draft, and then if it's different than your usual approach.
Yes. I think that you have to take a look at the board and seeing what's given to you. I had known from seeing the boards before, and also from hearing from players who've played in this league before. It's my first year on the hard way, but had known that running backs go early and often in this league. So for me, I'm going to zig when others zag. I am a value-based drafter is what I like to call myself. I'm going to typically try to take the best player on the board according to my own projections. And I'm going to adjust as needed on the fly throughout the draft, trying to construct the best roster that I can, have the most ties or whatever it may be, whatever makes the most sense for my given roster, while also taking into consideration my value-based drafting strategy. Of course, running backs went early and often, like I said. I mean, 7 of the first 8 picks were running backs. Travis Kelce was, the norm there. Tyreek Hill fell to me at 9, and that's kind of where he goes on average in these FBG drafts. So not a lot of value, and we talked about that earlier. Is just not a lot of value in this draft anywhere. I think for me, the largest value that I saw in this draft for me was Darren Waller. Being able to grab him in the turn around 2, they're at 2.04. I mean, I'm seeing him go as early as 1.06 in some of these drafts, 1.07. Never really outside, the turn now. And when I saw him there, I was really faced with a decision. I'm either going to go modified kind of 0 RB build here, or I'm going to skip on him and I'm going to go with a Joe Mixon or a Clyde Edwards-Helaire to stack with my KC. And I was bouncing between CEH and Waller there, and decided, hey, you know what? No, I'm going to continue the value-based drafting, and I'm going to see what I can get at running back later. So a lot different than my normal build. I usually like to leave the first 3 rounds with 2 solid running backs, and then start building my wide receiver and my tight end core from there.
I like what you did. As I said to you off air, you were one of my favorite rosters to see how you develop. You really differentiated. I found in the first 3 rounds that Waller pick was key. The only receiver in the first round, obviously Kelce, the other non-running back, goes to Dan. So we'll come back to your roster in a bit. I do like what you did. Theo, I'll go to you first. It's your first year. Similar question. What was your approach coming in? Was it any different than because you've done a lot of drafts, this offseason, especially with these bigger buy-in leagues? What was your approach coming in, and was it different than what you usually go in with?
So yeah, I'm kind of with Billy on that. I love grabbing running backs this year. I have built some 0 RB teams, kind of as the value comes to me. But with the 6th pick, I was really thinking it was going to be a Tyreek Hill for me. I had anticipated Derrick Henry going a little bit earlier, and I wasn't prepared to use the 6th pick on Jonathan Taylor. I have just a little bit concerns about his receiving upside. I don't like using 6 on him. And Alvin Kamara, I have some reservations that it's going to take some Hill. So I'd kind of honed in on going Tyreek Hill a little bit earlier than ADP and having what I consider to be the wide receiver 1 this year. But when Derrick Henry fell to me, I grabbed him. I mean, I love getting Derrick Henry with the 106. I think it's great value. So yeah, I kind of just pivoted, and it ended up working out pretty well in my favor. And then I agree. I love where Billy got Darren Waller. I thought that was fantastic value. But I was also happy to get Aaron Jones, who I think will be a very high volume guy. I think he will set his career high in targets this year. Even if it's not Aaron Rodgers, I still like Aaron Jones where I got him. So I came away with two what I consider to be 2 running back 1s in the first 2 rounds. So I was happy with my build.
Yeah, Dan, I think that 5 pick actually right after you, that Eckler pick is what pushed Henry to Theo. Comment on that, and then how do you feel? I know you find comfort in getting Kelsey in the first round, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't think that Kelsey would even drop to me. I figured Todd would just take him at number 3. And when he took Zeke Elliott, that, of course, changed things up. So I had to kind of quickly decide whether I wanted to pivot or if I wanted to stick with who I had originally selected there. And that was Austin Eckler was who I was thinking I was going to be taking it for. So either way, I think Henry was probably going to fall to Theo. But I knew when I took Kelsey, I was going to be taking a chance on whether a running back would make it back to me. Because I really felt my build would probably be better if I had, Aaron Jones or CEH or somebody like that coming back. I ended up with Ridley though. So, that was, I thought he would already be gone. So I was happy with that, but I definitely did not expect to be starting off tight end, wide receiver, and then start looking for running back. So I was definitely scrambling off of my original plan and trying to put something together on the fly that I thought could work. But when you got a chance to take Kelsey and you got a chance to take Ridley, I mean, it's pretty tough to pass on either one of those guys.
Billy, sorry to cover your face. I'll take it off right away. But this question is actually Johnny Guerrero must have seen our show sheet, right? It's kind of like at the concert when you see the playlist, the list that the band's going to play. So he's asking, and I'll go to you, Billy, which player do you expect to be biggest risers in ADP through September? I mean, we were going to look, now. So between now and September, I guess, would be looking at rising ADP.
The number 1 player is going to be Odell Beckham Jr. It's already happening. He was going in round 9 in April and May. He's already sneaking into round 6. It was the backside. Now it's the middle of round 6. I would not be surprised to see him going in round 5 come September, if not earlier, quite frankly. As we start seeing the masses join, they're going to go for household names, and they're going to start pushing ADP up. It's one of the benefits of drafting early. If you know what you're doing, you can also hurt yourself. But I think that if you have a pretty a good understanding and knowledge of football and kind of can understand schemes and fits and how it's going to work, there's a very good edge in drafting early. I mean, being able to get Odell Beckham Jr. at the middle to end of round 9 was a smash play every single time for me. I own him like 33% of leagues right now.
Nice. I like it. Before I'm going to pass this to Theo and then Dan, because I know they've got like some serious questions for you about this draft. But I find it's similar with Dynasty. I know we're talking redraft tonight, but I feel like a lot, and Dan, we talk about this on the show. There's guys we talked about in March and April that we were telling you to go buy, and now it's like it doesn't make sense to go buy them. So I find it's similar, right? Those values that you were finding in March, they're not there anymore. So it's same way. That's why you got to stay with the show, man. Smash the subscribe, smash the like. Because guys, seriously, we're giving you guys actual plays to go out there and get before the rest of the herd. And I'm not calling anyone out or anything. I'm just saying I listened to some shows and it's like they're talking about guys and I'm thinking that was like 3-4 months ago, man. That's not now. You're not buying that guy now. His price is way too high. So I think it's the same here, guys. So pay attention to whether it's you're looking at the board or one of these three drafters and the guys that they're highlighting, you know, whether it's value in this draft or value that you can find in your own drafts. Theo, I'll go to you first, man. What's a question you got for Billy?
He touched on it. With your preferred build seems to be walking away with 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. When are you attacking the high volume wide receivers? I mean, I know in this draft you went with Tyreek Hill in the first round. Do you kind of just grab them as the value presents itself, or is there a specific pocket where you really know you're going to attack wide receiver?
So I think the best game plan for any draft is being flexible and being able to adjust on the fly. I would hate to peg myself saying I have to leave every draft in the beginning with 2 out of my 3 picks have to be running back. I think if you do that, you're going to hurt yourself in the long run. And I really think that you're going to dig yourself in holes and you're going to reach on players that you could have necessarily got the next pick and taken a better value with the previous pick. So when I say I like to get 2 out of 3 running backs, it's not a must. It's a preference, but I will adjust on the fly any given draft that I need to. To answer your question, though, when am I attacking wide receivers? It's as the value presents itself first and foremost. But I really like, and it also depends on the format. So if I'm doing best ball or if I'm doing FBGs, it's completely different. So like best ball, I'm completely fine waiting until round 4 or 5 for a receiver. And then I'm going the next 4 or 5 picks with the receiver. I may be sprinkling in a tight end. I may be sprinkling in a quarterback, depending upon what value fell to me. But I really like the value of wide receivers, especially in the best ball format, especially through those rounds like 8, 9, 10, where you're getting those, Michael Gallups, Will Fullers, Brandon Cooks, you're getting Marquise Browns, players that are really going to pop. When it comes to FBG in the hard way, little different. You're going to have to take the receivers as they present themselves. For me, I'm not going to pass on F1 or Scary Terry, some might like to call him here, at the end of round 3. I thought about taking Miles Sanders there, but being in so many drafts, I said he's been slipping lately. And he's been falling to the middle of round 4, the end of round 4. I'm going to chance it and hope that slip continues. And it paid off. I was able to grab Miles Sanders because just being in enough drafts, I know that value keeps falling. So I took my wide receiver there as well. So to answer your question, it depends on the format, but I am okay waiting on wide receiver.
Yeah, I thought the Sanders pick was a little like Dan's Dobbins pick, where you guys were able to go with a build that they basically give you foundational running backs potentially, where you guys were able to extract some value in the first 2 rounds with the tight end and a wide receiver. And we love Calvin Ridley this year. I know Dan's a huge fan of his. So you guys each walk away with a top-notch wide receiver, but then you're able to kind of, recover with potential RB1s in the 3rd and 4th rounds. I really like that move with Sanders. I'll give a shout out to Curtis Patrick. I heard a great take on it. Is Miles Sanders is mispriced one way or another right now. Either he's going to not get the work and he's going to fall and be like a 6th round value. But if he does come in there and get the work and the Eagles offense, exceeds expectations a little bit with Hurst, it could be a real steal right now. Last year I had a draft where I took him 8th overall. And now, like you said, he's going in the 4th round. So I like that pick a lot for you.
Yeah, people forget Miles Sanders was being drafted as early as pick 5, 1.05 last year. He was, consistently around one draft pick. And I still think he has that same upside. I know there's, coaching changes, and I know there's a new quarterback. I know there's a lot of changes, but when he was in the games with Jalen Hurst down the run, he had a fantastic run. And even though he had some injuries last year, he was still 14th in the NFL in rushing yards. And so to be able to grab the 14th leading rusher in the middle of the beginning of the 4th, what is that, like running back 17, 18 off the board? I haven't counted it yet. But he's almost running back 20 right there. I'm willing to take that as my running back 1 with the upside that I have with Tyreek and Darren Waller every single day of the week.
I'm going to go around the board to each of you because, you guys are all in here in this draft. So, but you've done other drafts of this, similar type, like maybe, best ball. So I'm going to go around. Give me 2 players each if you can. And I'm springing this on you guys, so I apologize. But you guys are profesh, right? You guys are profesh. Come on. Dan, give me 2 guys that you find yourself, whether it was in this draft and, preferably something relating to this draft. But is there a guy or 2 that you find yourself, drafting over and over? I know Billy's touched on a couple guys based on the value he found in this draft, but give me a couple guys that, our listeners can focus on, especially if they fall at certain points of the draft.
Right. So one of them that I find myself consistently drafting is Antonio Gibson, pretty much anywhere in the second round, because a lot of times he will fall, all the way down towards the end of the second round. And he is starting to pull back towards the middle of the round now. But, I was happily taking him, if I had one of the first 4 picks with my second round pick. And I think he's somebody who's just got a ton of upside based on how he's likely to be used in that Washington offense and what he's demonstrated skill-wise. So really it's just a matter of health for him. Is the turf toe healed? Is he ready to go? And I think he's going to be just fine. I mean, I think he'll be far enough removed from it that I know he's saying, well, I got to be careful with it. I'm not too worried about that. So he's one player I find myself drafting just all the time. Another one I find myself drafting all the time is Darrell Henderson. And again, just because I think he's very well attractively priced for the type of handcuff that he is and the type of week winning upside that he could offer if something were to happen to Cam Akers. And so he's somebody that anytime we get into the middle rounds, I'll be looking for him. It's just a priority because we know that Rams offense is going to be using the running backs heavily as part of their strategy.
No, I love the Henderson. If you're heavily invested in Akers, especially, that's like the perfect hedge, right? You do a couple of best balls. You're like, especially if you go late round, you want to go deep at running back. He went in the 10th round in this draft of Sharks here. But yeah, I love both those calls. Theo, who are 1 or 2 guys that you find, whether it was in this draft or in other ones that you're drafting over and over because of value?
There's a few guys that I have multiple shares of. One guy, it's very hard for me not to take Antonio Brown, kind of in that area that I got in. I took him in the 8th round. I've got him in the 9th round as well. I'd imagine his ADP will move up a little bit. I'm curious to see what Dan and Billy have to say about that. But I think if he's healthy throughout the preseason, year 2 in the Tampa offense, he had all that off the field issues. I mean, we're talking about Antonio Brown. I think that he's being drafted at his floor right now, and I think he's just a great flex for me. So I've added him a few times. And then another wide receiver who I have multiple shares of is Tyler Lockett. I think the market's already corrected itself a little bit. Billy and Dan could tell you that, you may, when the season ended and we had early drafts, maybe get Tyler Lockett in like the 6th round. Now he's kind of solidified into the 5th round. In NFFCs, he's moved up into the 4th round a little bit. And I just think, you're talking about a guy who was wide receiver 8 last year overall. He had such a poor end to the season last year, but he's a great player. He had 100 catches last year. And again, I feel like if you're willing to kind of take the peaks and the valleys, which I am, he's going to score an awful lot of points this year. So I love that value. And then I've added, a guy who people seem to be a little split on is Travis Etienne. I think he will move up ADP wise, so I'm trying to grab him a little bit. He just seems like a player that people will get hyped on in the preseason. I think his role might be a little more clear by then. I believe in his talent, and I think that he might creep up into the end of the 3rd round. So I've been trying to grab him. So that's 3 guys which I have multiple shares of right now.
Dan, how many months Lockett were we talking go by Lockett? Because nobody and you and I did a lot of our drafts early in the offseason. I'm pretty sure we have 2 or 3 shares of Lockett, especially if we went earlier at other positions. I mean, exactly. He's money.
And what's killing his value this year is the fact that he scored like so many of his points in 3 weeks last year or something like that. I mean, it was just, his distribution of point scoring was extremely, wide variance. And, that's just variance. I mean, it's unusual. Yeah, it happened, but, the odds of that happening again are pretty small. I think, he's probably going to, his scoring distribution is going to be much more evened out this year. And the offense also fits him because, what they're talking about is going to a little bit more of a quick hitting passing game, which is going to favor him a little bit more than DK Metcalf, who, gets open in a different way than what Lockett does. Lockett is shifty and fast, and he can get open in the blink of an eye, whereas Metcalf takes a little bit longer to get open. So I think Lockett is going to really be a good pick this year.
Guys, before we go to Billy's guys, sorry to cut you off, Billy, but you might relate to this. You ever have a favorite band? They come out with their second album, and everybody's like, "What the F is that? Like, what the hell? That's your follow up? Like, seriously?" And I feel like that, like right now, the Seahawks and the Ravens for me are offenses that last year maybe a bit in shambles, especially Seattle. That offense, like they were confused. Are we passing team? Are we running team? We don't know. And I think that's what's throwing off people. So I think, the major pieces in that offense, but especially a guy like Lockett, because he's a receiver, because of his age, and because there's other shiny toys on that roster like DK Metcalf and the newest addition. Wow, blanking right now. Anyways, Billy, we'll go to you, brother. Who are some guys that you feel you're grabbing consistently in some of these drafts due to value?
I'm going to give you 3 because one of them I've already given a lot of the statistics on, but it's Miles Sanders. He keeps falling into round 4. I was able to get him at 4.12 the other day in a best ball draft, which was just phenomenal value. I've already given you the statistics on it, so I won't bog you down on that one again. But the other 2 are Marvin Jones and James Robinson. So I'll start with Marvin Jones here. Marvin Jones was wide receiver 18 last year in fantasy points. And he had 9 touchdowns. He was 19th in receiving yards with 978. I got him off the board in this draft as wide receiver 56. And I just think that he's just the steady Freddy, right? Everyone I know is on the Chark train. Everyone's on the Laviska Shenault train. But it seems like no matter where Marvin Jones goes, whether it was Cincinnati or it was Detroit, he seems to always just be in the right place at the right time. There's something to be said for route running. There's something to be said for hands, but there's just something to be said about being a good football player and knowing how to get open. And Marvin Jones just seems to be that player for me. And I really think that he's going to be that target for Trevor Lawrence, that steady hand that he can rely on. And we're starting to hear scuttle out of camp that they're saying that Chark didn't play big last year. And I just think that being able to get that price on him, there's hardly any risk with all the reward. And I think that he's also going to be used a lot in the red zone as well. So I'm very high on Marvin Jones. James Robinson, I mean, we saw what he did last year. He was, in my eyes, kind of like the only other player who's even come close to what he did was like an Arian Foster type. He came in off, undrafted rookie free agent, finished the season as RB7 in standard and finished the season as RB7 in PPR as well. I mean, 10 touchdowns, over 1,000 rushing yards, and everyone is on. Sorry, Theo, but everybody's on this Travis Etienne kick, and I just don't see it. I mean, we've seen rookies come in the league. Like, look at Amir Abdullah. Look what happened to Amir Abdullah, right? Everyone saw in preseason he was being drafted in like the top 3-4 picks in rookie drafts, and it just doesn't pan out sometimes. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Travis Etienne, but what I'm saying is there's something to be said for a rookie who has already had success. Do I expect him to get the volume he had last year? Absolutely not. Do I expect him to have the passing volume in the passing game as much as he did last year? Absolutely not. But for a running back taken in round 7 right now, who's going to be the 1-2 back in this offense, I like that upside. I like the fact that he's going to be the goal line back. And I really like the fact that where his ADP has fallen. I mean, to me, it's a huge value in round 7.
Guys, someone tweeted out today, and I'm trying to find them on here. So if you guys know or remember who it is, I would appreciate it, because I really like whenever people take the time. And guys, if you're listening or watching, we appreciate any time you give feedback on the show, especially on Twitter. Someone put out a really nice tweet just saying, you know, anytime they listen to a tweet that makes them want to run off and go do a draft or a trade or change his mind on a player.
It was Mike Sanda. Mike Sanda.
Yep.
There you go.
Mike Sanda's a very good player, and Mike Sanda is in the NFFC New York Super with me, and he's everybody knows him in FFPC and in NFFC as a guy who puts together solid teams. So you know, we're the Sharps are listening to the GOAT District because we get guys like Billy Muzio coming on. So that was great to see Mike tweeting that out.
And his spreadsheet was pretty accurate, with the exception of the 1 and 2 should have been flopped. But I think the spreadsheet was pretty darn accured.
Hey,
the spreadsheet was good. I enjoyed the spreadsheet as well. That was nice for us. That was nice for us.
Here, you get one of these. There you go, Billy. I was a little slow on the trigger, but you definitely deserved the first one. For the night. But no, I say that because you brought up two guys that I just cannot get on. And Marvin Jones, you know, not sexy enough. Maybe he's on the Jags, all that. And obviously with Robinson and Etienne coming in, you know, he's a guy that he's one of those guys, like, he's pushed down now. You're not getting him in the 2nd or 3rd round anymore. So the guys that are picking him in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, I mean, you might have yourself a legit RB2 right there. You know, and again, when you're looking at roster construction, getting some of those other positions early, these are players that I'm, you know, someone like Billy's making me think about, and I appreciate that. I hope you guys appreciate that. Smash the like, smash the subscribe. Dan, I'm going to do it real quick. myffpc.com. We're talking about it all night. You see the draft boards. You've heard it on Shark Week. These guys are winning 6 digits playing fantasy football, period. That's all I need to say. I shouldn't have to say more than that, guys. Fantasy football, you win $500,000, and we're not talking like you got to invest hundreds of thousands here. You're getting into leagues. You can get into a $35 best ball, win a 350 entry into the Football Guys Championship, and win yourself a $500,000 check right there, son, by winning 3 leagues. And that's legit. That's no jokes. That's why we promote the site on here. It's the best site out there. Best ball, redraft, big money leagues, small money leagues, if that's your thing. You know, slim drafts are down to $5 now, guys. So there's room for everybody on the FFPC. Go to myffpc.com right now. Guys, let's get back to the draft. Theo, what was your biggest surprise, or what's something that maybe surprised you in this draft?
I mean, that's a good question. Can you pull up
was there anything, right? Was there anything? Because maybe these guys are so sharp that nothing surprised you, or so, I don't know.
I think that this draft showed that people in the high stakes community are going to push Austin Eckler higher than he would go in a lot of home leagues. I was in another draft this weekend where he went a couple picks. I had the 11th pick, and I was thinking I could get Eckler, and it just didn't happen. And Mark Garcia, you know, took him higher than ADP. That's Hilo, who's a very, very sharp player who we all respect. And he went out of his way to not only take Austin Eckler at 5, but he went with Keenan Allen, right about where Keenan Allen's priced. And then he took Justin Herbert actually ahead of Dak Prescott, which you rarely see. He's going, you know, pretty much all in on that Chargers stack. And you'll notice, I don't recall who it was, but I think it was who took Mike Williams, guys. But they definitely did it.
I just saw him beside.
That was two-packer Ron Meyer.
Yeah. So
right
so
before
two-packer, you can see two-packer tried to break up the stack. I think he didn't want to give Hilo the complete Chargers stack. That would, Billy and Dan, would you agree that was a stack block, or was that just taking him ahead of value? Because I didn't think there was any reason to take Mike Williams quite that high. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think Ron's high on him.
Dan, let me throw this on the table. Guys, wouldn't you have taken AB there and stacked him with Fournette and Godwin as opposed to trying to block the other guy? Like, focus on your own roster. No, am I wrong here?
I mean, yeah. We'd have to ask Ron. I mean, I think he, here we go.
I knew I'd get him on here.
Yep.
Nice. There you go. For those listening, he's got in the chat there. Sorry, Theo. He's got in the chat. I'm not a stack breaker. Chargers are my favorite team. So there you go.
I mean, if you look at his name, it says it all. I mean, non-sheeple rankings, and he's not afraid to go outside the ADP train. I mean, I thought Jalen Reagor was going to make it back to me. That's the one that I was kind of shocked about because he's normally going a full round and a half later at the end of round 12 there. And so I had every intention of taking Reagor this draft instead of Marvin Jones there, or tapping Reagor and then getting Marvin Jones on the turn so I could pair Reagor with Hurts and then take Marvin Jones with my James Robinson. And he took him, and I remember I was like mid sip, and I was like, oh, son of a bitch! Like he just took Jalen Reagor. I didn't have my scoundrel sound.
I was going to say there were a lot of those during that draft,
but that was my biggest kind of oh man, I just got sniped moment, and it was a round and a half early, and according to ADP, and at that point, I had already seen him take Mike Williams, so I had known that he was not afraid going against the grain.
He certainly had a great start with DeAndre Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, and then went back to the well with Chris Godwin. That's a really nice receiver group that he put together there. And it's kind of like the Williams and Harden picks are both guys that have extremely high ceilings in what could be two of the better offenses in the league. So yeah, I mean, I can see that. But just that was a surprise to me with Mark taking Eckler there. Other than that, there wasn't too many surprises. Jamar Chase, where Dave took him, was maybe a little higher than we see sometimes, but I thought it was a great pick. And he also was able to set up a Cincinnati Bengals stack. But other than that, I thought that the first 4 or 5 rounds there wasn't any huge reach. I don't know. Do you guys see any?
Yeah, nothing really huge. It's towards the middle rounds that you start seeing people really, making moves for their guys, a la Mike Williams. And I think, Ron was probably thinking Williams might not make it back to him in the ninth. And, there might have been some truth to that. That's a player I'm also high on. I probably would have tried to push him a little bit later, but, when Ron took him in the 8th, I was like, I was kind of thinking about picking him off in another round or two.
Yeah, and we talked about it live during the draft, but I mean, I have Herbert projected for 5,000 passing yards this year, and when we see a quarterback have that type of magnitude of a season, all the positional players around him get elevated as well. I mean, we look at last year and look at the MVP caliber season that we saw from Josh Allen and what happened with Stephon Diggs. Anytime a quarterback or somebody outperforms their ADP, the players around them, typically we see a rise in elevation as well.
Yeah, Hunter. I mean, you'd think that it opens up for Williams, and he's shown really nice flashes. Like dude looks like he could be a beast out there. He's like he kind of has flashes of Julio sometimes, kind of getting up there, grabbing that ball like a Hulk, like a Brock Lesnar, right, Theo? Just like,
yeah, I mean, Mike Williams could be the guy in the red zone this year. Like you said, Henry out of the way. You got to think that he could be, very well targeted, and he's had a double-digit touchdown season in his career. There's no reason he can't do it again. They spoke highly of him being the X receiver this year. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it. And
just Theo, to add to that touchdown, target action. Let's not forget who was leading in touchdowns a couple years ago was actually, or what, I don't know. I'm bad with how many years it was, but Hunter Henry, if I remember correctly, one of the top touchdown getters in a season at the tight end position. So now you've got him gone, which opens up even more for Williams. Let's face it, they haven't added much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was a question that I had for Billy. I've enjoyed you've been posting some of your team projections, and I thought they've been great. Is there any players? And I'll ask you to touch on one that I know we've discussed. is there any players? I know you mentioned Justin Herbert at 5,000 yards. Is there any other players that you were kind of surprised by your projections for them in a positive way, and maybe they bumped up your board because of that? And if you could talk a little bit about your love for TJ Hawkinson, who I know that we've discussed, and his stat wise, I know you're quite bullish on him.
We love some TJH on here.
He was actually the first name I was going to say because he was going in round 4 pretty frequently. He's starting to go in round 3, which I would never take Kyle Pitts over TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, I can't do it. I don't care. Dynasty, okay, there's an argument to be made, but FBG's main events, no freaking way. TJ Hawkinson, I have, and you and I have talked off air. I have TJ Hawkinson projected for 137 targets this year with the Detroit Lions. That team is going to be bad. And we got to think, everyone remembers Blake Bortles, and it was like, he was a really bad NFL quarterback, but in fantasy terms, he was the garbage time king, and he always came through, and he'd have like 10 or 12 points going into like the fourth quarter, and he'd finish with like 20 or 22 points because he's just a ton of garbage points. It was touchdowns. It was, 30-yard bomb or whatever it may have been. Hawkinson, I feel, is going to have the same way, but it's going to start from like quarter 1, quarter 2. They're going to have to abandon their run. They're going to have to start throwing the ball to keep up with these teams. Their defense is not good. He's really the only reliable target on the team. I mean, you have Brashad Perriman, you have Tyrell Williams, Quinn Cephas. I mean, that says enough to me. So TJ Hawkinson, to me, like, I was taking him all day in round 4 in the beginning of like April and May, and we're starting to see him squeeze into round 3. I'm glad I got my shares. I'm at almost 30% ownership across my FFPC leagues. I can start diversifying now and start looking elsewhere. So he was probably my most owned tight end in the beginning because of my projections. I'm not a big component of drafting a quarterback early because I'm a firm believer in finding value. I mean, I was drafting Aaron Rodgers around 11 last year. I was drafting Josh Allen around 11 last year. I always feel like you're able to find value. For me, it was Ryan Tannehill this year. I did it partly thinking that Julio may go there, but also if he didn't, he was going in round 17, round 18, a lot of these FBG drafts. It was like 163 ADP overall. Best ball, he was going earlier. But being able to get that type of player who's had the seasons that he's had, I had him projected for, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I had him projected for a pretty strong season, even losing Corey Davis, losing Jonnu Smith, because Anthony Firkser wasn't like a dud last year. He was utilized a lot. I mean, Arthur Smith ran a lot of 12 personnel. So I knew that Firkser was going to be involved. Then when they received Julio on top of it, for me, it was just a benefit. You were able to divert double coverage from Antonio Brown. You weren't going to have to rely as much on Firkser, and they're not going to be able to stack the box for Derrick Henry. It's going to open this offense up a lot more. So Ryan Tannehill was probably one of the most drafted quarterbacks I had because of the value that you were able to get him at, and he's starting to fly upwards now.
It's like that band you like, guys, in high school, right? You're the first one to like them. You love them. As soon as everyone else likes them, you're like, the fuck out. I can't hear that song one more time. I'm throwing that CD out or that tape for us oldies.
And that was part of it. Like, I was drafting Tannehill and Firkser in tandem because you were able to get, especially in these classic formats, like best ball formats, in the 28 rounds, you were able to get Firkser in like April, May. You were able to get him in round 20, 21, 22 sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Might be my most owned tight end, is for sure.
And then as soon as the Jonnu Smith news was official, I mean, I anticipated it. As soon as it was official, Firkser was going around 12, 13, up to 11. I saw him going around 10 at times. And to be able to pair that stacking like round 18, round 20, getting Firkser and Tannehill, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yep, definitely makes sense.
So you're not thinking it hurts Firkser too much with Julio coming in?
I definitely think it hurts him the most. I posted my updated rankings on Twitter like 15 minutes after they posted the news. I went through and adjusted them. Firkser definitely got a notch down. AJ Brown not so much. I really believed it was almost beneficial for him because he's not going to be able to get double teamed. I mean, yeah, he's not going to get the targets that he was slotted for. Like, I think at that point I had him slotted for like 130 something targets, which he was able to, be knocked down. Like I said, I don't have the numbers in front of me again, but I still have him as a wide receiver 1. He's still my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Julio's 32. He gets in. He's often injured, and he's going to divert a lot of attention. But overall, it's going to open up this offense. So I definitely think it hurts Ferkster the most, but it's not going to take him. You're not going to like lose like 4 rounds of value on, or you're not going to lose like 4 rounds of ADP on him. He's gone from like 10, 11 to like 12, 13 again.
Yep. Makes sense.
Dan, Theo, going back to the draft, is there anything specific, anything we haven't hit on that you guys either wanted to outline, that you wanted to ask Billy that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, one thing I thought that would be interesting that we could all discuss is the value pockets that we're starting to see develop in football guys drafts, namely for running backs and wide receivers. Are there any specific rounds that we're seeing, strong value in where the position sort of starts to dry up? I could start with you, Billy. Specifically running back and wide receiver. Is there any maybe like a 3-round, 2-round area that you're seeing just tremendous value? And JD, maybe we could see the board on this one.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for me. I can do without looking at the board.
Sure.
Round 11, 12 is after 12. I think there's a major drop off in wide receiver value. I love Gabe Davis this year. I mean, I have him pegged as the wide receiver 2 inside Buffalo. I'm not scared of Manny Sanders being there. Gabe Davis led this team in receiving touchdowns last year. I think he does the same here in 2021. He's a major best ball target for me. I like him in FBGs and main events as well. Round 12 wide receiver, I'll take it all day. But then, you start seeing like the Traquan Smiths and the Cole Beasleys and the Byron Pingrolls and those start going in the next round or two. And I just think that's just a massive teardrop for me. In terms of running backs, I think it for me, it really happens kind of from that 10 to 11, 10 to 12 range. I like Nyheim Hines more than most this year. I think he has standalone value in PPR leagues. Kind of similar reasons that you said, Theo, earlier, why you weren't high on Jonathan Taylor, I think is part of the reasons why I love Nyheim Hines. He's utilized in the passing game. He's explosive. He has really big weeks, really big games, really big plays. And I don't think that goes away. I think that he's going to be utilized in that same fashion here in 2021. Again, I'm a Darrell Henderson over Cam Akers guy. So I really like the Darrell Henderson range as well in 10. I mean, people are drafting Cam Akers at an absolute peak right now. They're drafting him off of his run at the end of the season in 2020 when he was averaging 23.5 touches a game. I mean, people forget Darrell Henderson was hurt. Malcolm Brown was hurt. Jared Goff had a broken thumb. And we're not going to see that type of injuries this year. Hopefully not within that offense. On top of it, they brought in a new quarterback, and he's a gunslinger. Matt Stafford slings the rock. They don't bring in Matt Stafford to run the ball 23.5 times a game. They bring in Matt Stafford to throw the ball more. And we're already seeing out of camp, they're loving what they see out of Matt Stafford. And I think that hurts Cam Akers.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, Cam Akers is as a middle to back end running round 2 running back for me.
You're hurting my feelings, but again, I like but honestly, dude, I don't like people coming on and just like I don't like everyone having the same idea. You know what I mean? I love when Theo or Dan, or especially like Dan and I co-own teams, and when he has like a different opinion on a guy, I love that. And when we have guests on that just show me a different side of a player, that's probably that's like the spark. You know, like I don't know if anyone has like a gas fireplace. You know that the pilot that's always kind of on. Like I feel like that's what gets me. That's where like I turn this show off and then I'm going to all my leagues and I start looking for trades and making moves. And because now my opinion is it's kind of opened up my eyes. You know, it's widened my trajectory as to who I'm looking at. And I love that as long as it's backed up by legit, logic.
Yeah, in Dynasty League especially, you're never going to have a higher selling point on Cam Akers than you have right now. And I firmly believe that. even if he starts off the season as well as he did at the end, that type of production, that type of volume is unsustainable. Sell him now.
And anyone who bought Bitcoin at 70 grand or 60 grand or whatever the top was, 65, they'll understand that. I sold DK Metcalf at the start of this offseason in Trade Addicts 5. I had Russell Wilson. It's a great stack. I love it. But dude, like I drafted him and now I just sold him for like a house and a yacht. Like, you know what I mean? I even have a trampoline in the backyard for my daughter. Like it's amazing. So why would you not, once you've gained that value, why not take the profit? And we talk about that. If you pivot correctly, you don't hurt your team. It's when you don't pivot correctly, that's when you hurt your team. And I think that's the problem. Anyways, this isn't Dynasty tonight. We're talking redraft, but I just wanted to kind of get that there. I'm going to go on a little rant here.
Hey, this is the GOAT District pod. We can always swing right into Dynasty and right back out. So no big deal.
We had makers. JD, Dan, and I did our Dynasty sells, a couple of weeks back, and Akers was my number one sell. Not because I hate the player, Absolutely. But I think that the value is inflated to a point that you'll never see again, possibly in his entire career right now. He's been treated like Jonathan Taylor in terms of value in the Dynasty community. He's not that for me. I think that you hit it spot on. I think Darrell Henderson is a value where he's going. He's a talented guy. I'll agree with you on Gabe Davis as well. I want very talented players in great offenses. And I think that there's, like you said, it's the perception of a crowded receiver room. But Gabe Davis has already flashed as the largest receiver on the team, on a team that doesn't feature the tight end, with a quarterback that we all like, and he's properly priced to exceed his value. So I think that's a great call. And just a shout out to Austin Martin. I think Austin was able to really attack the wide receiver position really well in our league. He went with Jalen Waddle in the 10th round, followed up with Elijah Moore, a player that I'm very high on, in the 11th. Got Billy's guy Gabe Davis, and then he followed up with Terrace Marshall, a player who Dan has spoken very highly on this pod for weeks and months now. So I think that kind of 10 through 12 round, you could potentially build a team where you pick up maybe two guys there as your wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4, or wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5, and just feel great, because it does seem to dry up a little bit after the 13th round. Like we said, the guys like Pringle, the guys like Aguilar, Edwards, you go from suddenly having, high upside guys with potentially solid volume, the guys that we're kind of guessing on. So I think that was a great call. And then, going back to your Hines call, I thought that was tremendous. I mean, the guy was running back 15 last year, and he's getting drafted as a running back 4 in a lot of drafts. And I'm also taking some shots on Kenyon Drake. I took him in this draft. I think that the Raiders have a plan to use him, and I like his potential. So, I agree with you on both pockets. Dan, would you agree on that, or are you seeing any other pockets of value for wide receiver or running back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly it. I mean, and I think about this kind of almost from the flip side of the coin. I'm taking a look at tight ends and quarterbacks, and really at tight end, once Hawkinson's off the board, I'm putting the draft on snooze at tight end until about round 12. I just don't have any interest in between there, because I think I can get guys in round 12 that are going to be at least similar and maybe better than some of those guys who are going in the 5th through 11th round. It just seems like we're always taking the guys who did really well last year, and we push them up into the 5th, 6th, 7th round at tight end, and they never do as well as we think they're going to do. And there's always guys like you can grab Gronk, you can grab Jared Cook, you can grab Hayden Hurst. These are guys that have proven production. And I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to really, it's going to hurt Hurst a little bit, not that much. And then you can get guys with super intriguing upside, Hunter Henry and New England. If he's the main receiving tight end, I think he's gonna massively pay off. Adam Troutman could be huge in New Orleans. Cole Kmet could be huge in Chicago. So there's lots of really good tight ends right around that range. In the meantime, you've got some quarterbacks in that, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. That's where you're getting kind of your elite quarterbacks. And if you miss out on them, then you're probably wanting to pick up your quarterback in the 10th or 11th round and pick up your receivers in between there. So that's kind of where I'm focusing is I'm using the tight ends to say, okay, tight ends and running backs, I'm grabbing them early or I'm grabbing them late. And then those middle rounds, I'm really going to be focusing on my wide receivers and my quarterbacks.
Yeah, Dan, I think you hit the hammer on the nail. I'm looking at my FFPC ownership right now, and outside Hawkinson or Fant, my next most owned tight ends are Eric Ebron, Hayden Hurst, and Robert Tunyon and Anthony Ferguson, all that like 11 to 14 range. And back to the Kyle Pitts piece, and I talked about the projections that I had for him. I mean, I have Hayden Hurst projected for 11% target share still. Arthur Smith, when he was in Tennessee, who's now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, he ran the most 12 personnel in the league. And people just are looking at this offense and saying, hey, they drafted Kyle Pitts. Hayden Hurst is chump change now. He's gone. No, that's not what's going to happen. I mean, Hayden Hurst is still going to be involved in this offense, especially with the 12 personnel that this offense is going to run. And now that we've seen Julio depart, and we've seen they have not brought in somebody else to replace Julio, I think it's obvious this team is going to run a lot of 12 personnel. And for me, that beneficiary is Hayden Hurst.
Dan, I'm going to disagree with you. I know I'm just a little goat around these sharks and whales over here, but my favorite
it's good bait.
Right now, that's good bait. There you go. Put a little red on it, But one of my favorite grabs, I talked about the two offenses that I'm picking off right now, and Baltimore is probably the one I'm picking off the most. And for me, Mark Andrews in the 5th and a tight end premium, and then to follow it up with Lamar Jackson in the 7th, bring on anyone that drafted a quarterback before me, and bring on anyone who drafted a tight end before me. And those are the only two guys that are falling in those ranges that I could say that with. So that's where I might disagree with Dan. I agree with the Pitts call. And I agree with kind of the ranges you guys discussed. But for me, Andrews and Lamar right now, especially in tight end premium, are money for myself. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
Yeah, I like the Mark Andrews pick. He slipped about a half a round from where he normally goes. Although the quarterback piece I don't agree with. Again, finding value. I mean, I'm able to get Aaron Rodgers in round 14. I would take a round 14 Aaron Rodgers over a round 7 Lamar Jackson any day of the week, even if I'm only getting 8, 9, 10 weeks out of Aaron Rodgers. We don't know what's going to happen. Anyone who says they know is lying. And all at this point, it's just assumptions, speculation, and projections. So I think that he got value in both positions regardless. I love the value he got at both spots.
And I agree with what you're saying about Rodgers. I kind of like just drafting Rodgers knowing he's going to kick ass, because I figure like he goes somewhere else, he kicks ass. He stays there, he kicks ass. Like unless he sits out, which I'm if your ownership percentages are right, you can handle that risk. But I agree with you. For me, and Lamar is when you get in those drafts, especially like this kind of draft, Billy. I don't know if you felt. I agree with your value on the quarterbacks, but sometimes you want to play with the guys that have those top quarterbacks. I feel like he's kind of the last one. Him and Rodgers are for me those last guys that fall in that value.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback off what Billy said. I don't mind taking a quarterback early when the value presents itself, and I'll also throw in. I know that you took Jalen Hurts in this draft. We've discussed Ryan Tannehill, who I completely agree with you on. I think Tannehill has that rushing floor that keeps him super safe to finish as a quarterback one this year with those weapons at wide receiver. But I'll also throw out Tom Brady, who I found myself taking a little bit. I think he has immense passing upside. There's 22 starters coming back for Tampa this year. He's going to have a great wide receiver core. Dan mentioned Gronk. We've talked about Antonio Brown. Obviously, Godwin and Evans are there. They added Gio Bernard, who I think could be a little dump off option for him. So I'm taking shots on Brady, and I like your Stafford call. And then we've talked about, taking one of these guys late, like a Trey Lance, as a potential lottery ticket. So, yeah, I think you can do it both ways this year, quarterback-wise. You just have to read the room and not reach. And one quarterback I'll also throw out that is Joe Burrow. We all love his wide receivers. If Joe Burrow is healthy, he could put up some dynamite passing numbers as well. So I think you can do it both ways. Billy's got a great argument on waiting for quarterback, and JD also has a great argument on those top 6 guys are could be a real difference maker for you as well. So there's different ways of building a team this year, and I think it makes it very exciting in drafts.
I think in general, though, with this kind of draft, especially the hardware draft, I mean, look at the value of quarterback across the board. I mean, even Mahomes went, a quarter to a half a round later, which is, the number 1 quarterback on everyone's boards primarily. And then to see Josh Allen and Kyler Murray in round 6 is just, you don't see that very often in these FPG drafts. They're going in round 4. They're both going around 5. I mean, Herbert and Lamar are going in 5 to 6. I mean, Dak Prescott went around the end of round 7 for crying out loud in this draft. So I think just across the board, the quarterback, we have savvy drafters in here. Everyone knows they can wait on quarterback. They can find value. They know that they can find a person that's going to fit their build, their mold. And I'm not saying that taking a quarterback early is wrong. It fits his team. I mean, he was able to get Mark Andrews to come back 2 rounds later and get Lamar Jackson. I mean, if I had Mark Andrews, I'd smash that play in round 7. It has to fit your team. It has to fit your mold. Like if you're the TJ Hawkinson owner and you're drafting Lamar Jackson there, I'm raising a little bit of eyebrow. It is value at the same time. So I'm not against it, but it just doesn't fit the team in the mold and the build as well as it did with Dan's build here.
And you guys bring up a good point. It's all about context. It's all about the individual rosters. I'm pointing out, I'm assuming that people listening to us in the middle of June right now are probably drafting multiple rosters like we are. So I like to, yes, if I'm putting $5,000 down right now, Dan's got me in these nosebleed leagues and I need to draft, I'll have my preferred way. But we draft so many teams that I think it's a good idea to have a bit of the constructions that you believe in and that you can maneuver throughout an entire draft. That's kind of like the way I see it. I'm not grabbing Lamar and Andrews in every single draft, but I feel like those 2 guys are falling at a really nice value. But you guys made a really good point. It's all relative to the narrative of your roster, right? And the construction that you're building.
Yep, definitely. And I know we kind of got off tight ends, but I just wanted to throw out one little tidbit for the Dynasty crowd that's listening in. We were talking about Hayden Hurst. He's going to be a free agent after the end of this year. You can get him for basically nothing in almost any Dynasty league right now.
Yeah, he's free right now.
Yeah, and he's shown that in the Atlanta offense, he can be somebody. So I think if he goes, he's a perfect player to just grab and stash on your roster. Maybe you're using him this year, maybe you're not, but he's definitely got a good chance of paying off for you, being a nice little appreciating asset that you can sell off for a profit next year, or just put him in your lineup and enjoy.
Well, especially a guy, sorry, Bill, that's going to go in there and you would think would get targets early in the season. And that's a perfect trade piece, right? So he blows up for in the first 2 seasons. No one's expected it. You got him on your roster for super cheap because you bought him now. Now you can go buy yourself that piece, that RB2 or that wide receiver 2. Go ahead, Billy. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I was going to say back to the Hurst. I love Hurst, and I can't get off this train enough because the value is just so significant. I mean, people forget how hard of a position tight end is to learn in the NFL. You're not only learning route running, you're learning blocking. You're essentially learning 2 positions in the NFL. Outside quarterback, it's one of the hardest positions to learn inside this league. And I mean, Hayden Hurst finished last year as I'm going to pull up PPR here,
guys. So, he put it this way: 16 weeks. He was a tight end 1 9 weeks. He was a tight end 2, at least a tight end 2 11 of those weeks.
So he finished as tight end 9, and he also finished with 9th in touchdowns overall. And it's not like that's going to go away. I just said, Arthur Smith runs 12 personnel, and we're not going to see Pitts on the field as much during blocking plays. So who's going to be on the field? It's going to be Hayden Hurst. So he's going to have an involvement. He's going to have a role. And people are underestimating the impact he's going to have on this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric Ebron, same way. I mean,
Yes.
Take all those arguments, put them on Ebron.
Parallel.
Yep.
Theo?
So Hurst also was. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a first-round draft pick. For Baltimore, they took him ahead of Mark Andrews, and if we go back a year ago, you're getting a 10 round discount on where he was going. A lot of people were very high on Hayden Hurst last year, and this is a guy that Atlanta gave up a second round and a fourth rounder, I believe, with the trade they gave to Baltimore for him. So yeah, it's Billy talks about where the target's going to go. It seems to me like there's a lot of kind of question marks after Ridley and Pitts. At the end of the day, Mike Davis will soak up some targets, but Hurst could end up being third or fourth on the team in targets, and I think he'll return value. I know one drafter we all respect. I'll keep his name anonymous so I don't reveal his targets. I saw him get Hayden Hurst in a 19th round a couple weeks ago in a football, guys. Now it seems like Hurst is in that 15th round-ish area, which is still just tremendous value. And then I like Dan's call on Ebron. I think that Pittsburgh receivers in general, it's a place that I want to take shots. I think the fact that there are so many guys is steering people kind of a little bit away. But I think that Ebron's a great call. Dan's talked about him on the show a lot in the past, and I think the fact that they added Freiermuth, who I'm extremely high on in Dynasty, is kind of bringing Ebron's cost down even a little bit more. And I think you can profit off of that right now in drafts.
Yeah, Ebron was money, right, Dan? I really want to pull up what he did last year because I don't think most people that didn't have him on their rosters or enjoyed the production, especially at the price he was going. So he was, very similar, guys. 15 weeks, 8 of those weeks he was tight end 1, 11 of them at least he was a tight end 2. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's magic, right? So you have this team drafting a rookie. That's wow. It's like if you want to buy Bitcoin right now. I mean, you're talking 28 grand, you know what I mean? For something that was 60 grand, like a couple, 3-4 weeks ago. Same thing here, guys. You're talking about a guy that's producing in the upper echelon at a position that's really hard to find production. And in an offense that I think is kind of being pushed back and similar to the Ravens in Seattle right now. I think guys are kind of poo-pooing on what Ben's going to bring to the offense. They got 3 receivers. These guys were producing guys last year. And as, rookies, a guy, young receivers, these guys are going to evolve. So I think Ebron and that offense, Ebron's money right now.
Yeah, and he's definitely one of the red zone targets in that offense. I mean, there's him and Juju and Claypool, and those are basically going to be your red zone targets. Deontay Johnson, yeah, he'll get a few looks, but your big boys are the ones that are going to eat down there. And, Roethlisberger knows it, and he's looking for those guys.
Can I ask a question not on our sheet?
Yes.
I'd like to hear everybody's favorite 3 targets in the first 12 rounds.
Of this draft?
No, in general.
Oh.
All right. I gotta go Austin Eckler. I've been on him since about November of last year, and the coaching change has done nothing to slow my roll on that. So he's definitely one of my favorite targets. TJ Hawkinson, I think we're getting him at a huge discount compared to Waller and Kelsey, and I'm not sure that he's going to finish all that far behind him. And let's see.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's good. I kind of enjoy it, actually. I'll go back to another one, that we talked about before, but Darrell Henderson. You're getting them in the back end of that, that 10, 11, round 10, round 11, compare him to, where Cam Akers is going. And I just don't see the reason why there's that big of a gap between them. I think it should be a lot more like, maybe James Robinson and Travis Etienne, that sort of a gap rather than the giant gap that's there right now. It's certainly not the same sort of thing, I don't think, as like Zeke Elliott and Howard. I mean, you understand why that gap's there, but yeah, I can't understand the gap between Henderson and Akers.
So for me, I'll give you a couple of high-end names, which I'd really like to have rostered this year in as many leagues as possible. Is Tyreek Hill. He's finished as wide receiver 2. He's finished as wide receiver 3 overall. He's never had a wide receiver 1 overall season, and I think this is the year that we finally see it. Sammy Watkins had 55 targets last year. I think that the majority of those go to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has never had, I believe it's 137, 136 is his career high in targets. I think this year he goes up to over 150, and I think we see him, finally smash wide receiver 1 overall. A.J. Brown is another name where I'd like to have a lot of A.J. Brown. Billy talked a little bit about how Julio actually improves him. We've talked for months and months about A.J. Brown. Pre-Julio trade, he was going to be going right around maybe the 1-2 turn in a lot of spots. I think now you're able to get a discount. I got him at a 211. I've seen him go at the 301, the 302, late second. I think he's a smash value there. The guy was a top 12 wide receiver last year on 100 or so targets. It was right around 100 targets. I think this year, even with Julio there, he's going to go up to, the 135 to 140 range. I'd be interested to hear Billy on how many targets he's got AJ projected for, but I'm very high on him. And I'll give you one more wide receiver. I talked about him, Tyler Lockett. I think for me, it's hard to walk away when he's in the, the late 5th, early 6th. He's a smash value for me. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I'm targeting this year, and I don't mean to be so position specific, but I think that's 3, great wide receiver values that can be foundational pieces for, anybody's team build right now.
I like them all. For me, I mentioned one earlier, Gabe Davis in round 12, and I've already listed why. I mean, red zone target, leading the team in touchdowns, and I think he's still the number 2 in this offense. I was also going to say TJ Hawkinson. I love TJ Hawkinson. And I think the other one for me is I keep going back to Miles Sanders. God, I own too much of this guy. I love the upside he has. I love his ADP. It's hard for me to pass him every single time I come to round 4 and he's there. And as we see him continue to slide, I'm going to continue to just accumulate. It's almost unhealthy, the amount of shares that I have of Miles Sanders. I should probably start passing just to diversify, but I just love what he's able to do and where he's going, and it's hard for me to pass on. In terms of updated target share for you asked about AJ Brown and my projections. Yeah. Prior to the Julio news, I had him at 25% target share with 130-ish targets. I have him more in that like 110 range now. I ate more into the Josh Reynolds and Dez Fitzpatrick share than his, but I still think he finishes in that 110 to 115 range. So a bit of a dip, but not significant.
Yeah.
Right. JD, who you got? Who's your guys?
You guys know I love Gibby. I got as my most owned player probably right now is Gibby. Dobbins is becoming one. He's a guy I didn't even like, circa a year ago, but just again the value's dropping at. Michael Thomas for me is probably the most undervalued receiver right now in any draft that I enter. The fact that he's still available when I see him, it just blows my mind, especially when you see guys going ahead of him. We talked about Lockett. Bateman is a guy that really has my interest, where he's going and just what he can become in that offense, maybe quicker than a lot of the other receivers that we're liking when we're talking rookies. So again, just when you're looking at he's going like in the double digits, 12th, 13th round, I really like Bateman. Irv Smith I mean, Dan, we own him in pretty much every roster that we have. If not, we've traded him because someone else liked him more. But Irv Smith, just like in this draft, in the 10th round, tight end premium, I'll take him ahead of Jonnu. I'll take him ahead of, Trotman, Tanyan, Henry. I feel the upside that you're getting, especially now that Rudolph is gone and them not adding much there is pretty legit. I had Judy written down, but I feel I'm looking at where he's going. He's moved up a lot. Like he's a lot closer to Sutton now. I think he was a lot more value earlier in the offseason, as was that Denver offense. Now with whispers of Rodgers maybe going there, the ADPs have kind of gone up a little bit. All right, guys, Go ahead, Theo.
I just had one question for Billy, and it's a question that I asked Wayne McFarland. Last year, Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen presented so much value as incredibly high target guys went in the 5th, 6th round. A lot of those guys won league. They won leagues for a lot of people. Is there a player, a wide receiver that might be under the radar that's going to get a tremendous target share or target total that you're seeing that maybe the community has not corrected itself on yet?
Hold on. Before you do that, Billy, whoever hasn't done it yet, smash the like button because Billy's not going to give it unless you do it. Guys, come on. Go ahead, Billy. I got my pen and paper. I just wanted to grab my pen. That's all.
And it might be no one. Maybe the market corrected itself. But if there's a guy you're seeing,
Billy's got somebody. Come on. Theo.
No, I had him in my head right when you said it. I mentioned him earlier. He was going in around 9 in March and April. He's going in around 6 now. It's Odell Beckham Jr. I have him projected at 22% target share, 136 targets, 86 receptions, 7 touchdowns, 1,129 yards, averaging 17 fantasy points a game. Assuming he is, fully healthy and he's back in week 1 with no hiccups. I've actually placed multiple bets on the Browns winning the division. I've placed multiple bets on the Browns as dark horses to the Super Bowl. I've also placed a bet on dark horse Baker for MVP. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. I'm a firm believer in when a quarterback outperforms their ADP, the rest of the supporting cast does as well. We've already seen what Nick Chubb has done, and he's capable of doing it even when the rest of the team is not at that level. Kareem Hunt as well. I think that Baker takes that next step forward. We saw a 5-touchdown game from him last year. I think this team is much improved. They have another year under the belt with their new coach, and I think that Odell coming back healthy with Jarvis Landry, Higgins, and the rest of the staff there, I really see Odell and him clicking this year and having wide receiver 1 upside every single week.
I think that's a great answer.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
I'm a numbers guy.
It's a not so obvious guy, and that's what I like about it. You don't hear that name everywhere, and he's at a reasonable price, whether it's dynasty or where he's being drafted in these redrafts right now.
Yeah, I mean, like just in comparison, like you look at like Calvin Ridley, I mean, who now I have projected as my wide receiver 1 for the year at 159 targets after Julio was traded. But
Dan might need next after that.
but to see like that type of like target share at like 27%. I mean, even you look at Allen Robinson at 25%, those wide receivers are going in round 2, round 3 to be able to say, hey, I'm going to take 20 less targets a year and get a wide receiver in round 6 to round 7 to me is a smash play every single time it hits me on that turn.
Yeah, I picked up, just to throw a little dynasty back in there. In the first week of May, and it was starting to be, we're starting to hear a little bit of more rumors percolating about Julio Jones getting traded. It was starting, nobody was saying it was going to happen, but it was just, you could start putting together the pieces and see, that this might actually happen. So I took a chance. I made a trade. I think it was, I traded off Calvin Ridley I traded off, I got Calvin Ridley and Gerald Everett, and I traded off the 111th, the 112, and I think it was Hunter Henry to make that deal.
Free money. Free money.
Right. Yeah. And it was just one of those things where I just, I said, I got to make this move. Same week, I just snap traded the 101 for Antonio Gibson. Again, just because I felt like, my 101 here is probably going to be Najee Harris. Gibson's younger than him. He's probably better, probably on a better offense. So I was just like, you know what, if I can get Gibson out of the 101, I'll take it.
And people underestimate the amount of catches that Gibson actually had last year. I mean,
right.
Gibson, off the top of my head, I think it was like 46 or 47. Don't quote me; it's around there. But and that was with JD McKissic, with all the touches that he had in the passing game. If that's more balanced out this year, I think that Antonio Gibson is a sneaky PPR play.
Yeah.
And McKissic was.
I left it for JD, by the way, on your.
40%.
I knew JD was going to want to use it.
Oh yeah, I need to. I might have to. I've been actually looking at maybe diversifying and trading some Gibbies away, just because 40% is a little much for me in FFPC, anyways.
Not where we co-own. You can't do it. Sorry.
I know.
Putting my foot down.
Those are the last ones I look at, because I know I got to go by Dan, and there's certain players I know Dan ain't gonna So I'm like, I'm not even looking there.
That one's not going off the roster. Nope.
It's like Kyle in our money league. I know we want AGB, but I know you love some Kyle Pitts, and that might be our only share. That's my only share. I don't know about you,
right. Dan. I've got one other share. But yeah, a couple other shares, I guess. I don't know.
You got to have some shares.
You got to have some shares. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel. That's why I'm like, you know what?
You got to have a couple of shares.
Dan wants to hold Pitt. That's my only share. I'm fine with it. Billy, man, this has been a blast, and congrats. The background, guys. Just to put this in perspective, that background with the locker room action with the 49ers, that's an actual closet. That is legit, man. So at FF Muzio, he's got some tweets about it. He tweets money on the daily when it talks fantasy. And like I said, guys, you can go even on our YouTube, and you can sign up to their fantasy data YouTube channel. So Billy, honor to have you, man. We appreciate all the goodness you gave us. Anything you want to share, anytime you want to come back, we'll tell Dan to just work that night or anything. It's all good.
I just want to say thank you guys for having me. Thanks for reaching out, Theo. It was an honor to be on here. I've been listening since I pretty much started playing on FFPC. And I was really excited when you guys asked me to come on. I also really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting us at Fantasy Data, and for liking our channel and highlighting it on your guys' channel. I know that's a lot, and I really thank you guys. I think that's pretty much it, boys. I was really excited to be here tonight.
It was a blast, man. You, like I said, we respect your game. We respect what you. Obviously, the guys, they didn't even invite me to the draft. I was like some fill-in co-host guy that just. But no, man, we respect your game. We respect the material you guys are putting out there at Fantasy Data. That's why we have it on our site. Like I said, we don't have. It's like our sponsors. Like, we don't have sponsors because we're making a bunch of cash off of it. We're literally, these are things that we use, and that's what we do. And we just want you guys to go out there and use it so you can become better. And that's basically it. The FFPC, I've had success. Dan's had success. Theo's had success. You've had success, Billy. And that's why we talk about it on the reg. Dynasty Depot, if you're not already in Dynasty Leagues on the FFPC, you can actually buy orphans on there. Some are even cheaper than the actual buy into the league. Some are a bit more because of their potential. And then you can draft teams and flip them yourself. So if you own rosters, dynasty rosters, you can go on there. I know Theo has, some good experience on there that he can share when he closes this out. But actually, I'll go to you right now, Theo. Anything you want to add on the Dynasty Depot, our friends over there, Nelson, and anything you want to add about this draft being a first timer with the hard way?
No, I mean, like I said, it was an honor to be involved with a number of guys I have a great deal of respect for. And I think it really sharpens you. It felt like a late August high stakes draft in June. So it really revved the engines, and it makes you want to keep drafting as well. So yeah, tonight was awesome. Hopefully you guys our listeners have listened to the last three shows. Three of the sharper minds in fantasy over the last 8 days. And next week we have Billy Wazowski, an NFFC Hall of Famer. So I think we're really bringing people with skin in the game and a lot of talent, building teams. And I think it's been great tonight with Billy. And it's I love doing that draft, and I can't wait till next year. And I hope my team wins the league. I can talk trash before it. And I know you guys are thinking the exact same thing I am.
Yep. Yeah, there's no way you're going to win this deal. We're winning this.
I was waiting for.
It's going to be a tough waiver wire. It's going to be very.
I just want to once again highlight the fact that Santa's spreadsheet said that the three people in this room who drafted in this draft were the top three drafters. So
yeah,
we're finished first, second, and third.
I think Dan and I would both agree. First was wrong, but
yes, definitely.
The replacement between the two of us is debatable.
Yep.
There you go.
Exactly
there you go. I'll take Mike's ranking all day long as the top ranking in the league right now on paper.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man.
That's awesome.
Well, Theo kept sniping me too, and it was just like it was getting a little frustrating at times, but it's all right. It was like every time it came around to the even rounds, I was like, okay, who's Theo gonna take that's gonna piss me off?
That's awesome.
When you're in the GOAT district, you absorb all this knowledge, and it just becomes part of your draft strategy, Dan. So
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Go. See, Theo's catching on to the trick, right? Then that's
there
you go.
Yes,
get GOAT's doing GOAT things.
Exactly. And guys, that's why you tune in on the weekly, man. Like, and even twice a week sometimes, like we did last week. Guys, I'm not joking. Like, Theo is on a mission to bring every shark, every whale out of the ocean into the district, just slamming that on the table.
It's turning into Shark Month is what it's turning into.
It's pretty much, and it might just be a shark off season. We might just change from goats. We might transform from goats to sharks. I mean, who knows? That's what's going on
here. The Shark District. It's the Shark District.
The Shark District. There you go. We'll have to talk to our branding manager or whatever that is. But,
no, even better. All you got to do is add a fin right between the horns.
There you go.
We'll talk to buddies at Viridian. We'll talk to Mark over at Viridian to hook us up. But guys, this was a blast. Tune in, guys. If you haven't seen the last two shows of the GOAT District, I mean, if you haven't tuned in this offseason, you got to go back. But the last two shows with tonight, 3 shows, Shark Week. That's how we do it here in the district. You're getting information, insight from high stakes players that have won high stakes money, that have done it, and they're telling you how they're doing it. You're not finding that anywhere else. Guys, we appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Check out myffpc.com to play all the goodness we're talking about on this show. Any fantasy football format is on there. Check out Dynasty Depot, trade, sell, and buy Dynasty rosters from the FFPC. Viridian Global, guys. You see it right here. The shirt, I've got it right here. The goods, the hat, the GOAT gear. Tons of gear on there, guys. Your favorite fantasy podcast is on there. If your favorite player, you want a CH or a Jamar Chase shirt, a Gibby shirt, they have the best fantasy football shirts. You're in the fishbowl, go grab yourself a fishbowl shirt. They've got every kind of fantasy football goods, gear that you can find on there. Go check it out, viridianglobal.com. Guys, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the likes, the subscribes, the follows, and keep bringing the feedback, guys. We love the feedback. Comments, below. Comment on Twitter. You want trades analyzed? You have questions for us? Make sure you find us. I'm at GOAT District, Overhyped Sleeper, no E on the end, at the OG Fantasy. Our guest tonight, the must follow, the at FF Muzio. Guys, be safe, have fun, and we'll check you all later.
GOAT District. district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.